You ever wonder why some content creators get all the luck and all the views while you're still struggling to figure out why your content isn't getting the attention it deserves? It's not just luck, it actually is strategy. And I'm going to share with you the top three differences that I see from professional creators to amateur creators and how you can start to change the game today. Now, in case you're wondering, my name is Hillary Billings. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Attentioneers, where we help personal brands, entrepreneurs, and companies grow their reach and revenue through short form content strategy, helping you to make content that captures attention, content that your audiences care about, that will convert, and that you won't cringe at. And just for some social proof, I have done over 1 billion organic views across my content on multiple platforms from Facebook to TikTok. I've grown my following from 0 to 400,000 followers in 40 days on TikTok. It's now well over double that. And I've helped clients to 250x their views, to 250x their engagement, to go from not being seen to converting and getting keynote clients, from going to not being seen to getting the money on the affiliate revenue that they actually wanted, those 5-figure earnings every single month. I specialize in the short form video strategy world. I'm new to the long form YouTube space, which might be why you're noticing why I have no followers here. Which, by the way, if you're interested in learning more about how to create great content, if you're interested in learning more about how to make especially short form content that is going to sell, it's going to allow you to become the personal brand, the entrepreneur, or the business that you want and be able to use that as a stream of revenue to come in, hit that subscribe button. I'm so excited that you're here, and I'd be happy to take your questions. I want to build this together and make sure that the content that I'm providing is massively valuable. So over the course of my time as a content creator, as a speaker, I've noticed three key differences that I want to share with you today on what makes the difference between an amateur content creator or a professional content creator. Now, in my opinion, this applies to whatever type of content you're looking to put out there, whether that's long form content, whether that's short form content like TikToks, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels, or whether that's even your newsletter or a podcast. It doesn't really matter the medium, it's all about the mindset. So let's talk about those three key differences. Now, the first one that I'd like to point out is that amateurs, when they're looking at the results of the content, they're going to lean on likes much more than longevity. Amateurs lean on likes more than longevity. Meanwhile, the pros aim for systems that are going to allow for success and sustainability. The pros lean on systems that allow them for success and sustainability. So, what do I mean by that? Especially when you're just starting out as a content creator. It's big, it's scary, it's unknown. You're putting yourself out there in a new way. And I can more than most speak to the number of haters and people that will try to bring you back down in that process. So, of course, we're looking for something outside of ourselves. We're looking for something outside of what we're doing to prove that it's working, to prove that people want to hear from us, to prove that we have something valuable to say. But when we're relying on views, we're completely missing the value of the process. And so what ends up happening is amateurs post their first videos and then they don't get the views that they want. Or they get one video that does kind of well, and that gives them a false sense of relief for a second. And then maybe they post again, or they post once that week, or twice the next week, or they forget. And then the results aren't coming, and then they get discouraged because they've been building their routine off of making content based upon the final step, the external result, by which you have very little control over. That's actually one of the things that I teach people through my short form video on demand bootcamp, that I teach people when I work with them one-on-one, when I go in and run workshops for clients and brands and companies, is that at the end of the day, once you hit post, now that video is pretty much out of your control. And if Taylor Swift does anything that day and posts a cute photo of Benjamin Button or her smooching her man, it doesn't matter what the rest of us are going to do because that content's going to take priority. Or if there's a massive current event or an election. So we can't rely on the external, that initial moment of the algorithm to be the thing that actually works for us. What has to work for us is the systems that we set up on the front end to keep us making content and actually give us something to build a foundation from. How often do you want to be posting? How many different types of content do you want to be putting out there? This year in 2025, putting out long form content has been added to the list. It's been a very long time for me to get here. And in fact, I have been roasted by many a YouTube Shorts reel commenter about the fact that I don't have a presence here. And I'm not doing that, not creating this presence now in order to fight them, but it's a valid point, and I want to reach a bigger audience. I want to help people in a deeper way. So YouTube long form content is the obvious next step to do that. So now I have to create a system by which to show up here. How often do I want to be releasing content? How often do I need to be filming content? How often do I need to be editing content? How often do I need to be ideating? By creating a system, I create a flow, and it's no longer built upon a motivation of an external factor. Of course, I'm going to be excited if and when a video takes off. Of course, I'm going to be thrilled to hear from a comment of somebody how this impacted them if and when it does. But that can't be the thing that motivates me to keep going. I have to create consistency, and I create consistency by creating a content calendar and a production flow. So the first thing that I see the professionals doing is they're actually creating systems by which they're making content creation part of their job. And it is a job sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't feel good. Sometimes it's not fun, even if you are making super fun content. But it's about having a system that you're following to ensure that you keep putting content up. And by the way, if you need help with this, my short form video on demand bootcamp walks through how to make this process super efficient, super seamless, and to make sure you're getting the most effective use of your time as you go. So you can find more of information of that in the video description. So that is the trait number one. The amateurs are all about the likes instead of the longevity, and they're using the likes to motivate them to keep making content versus having a system by which to create their success sustainably. Trait number two, and this one's super important. Amateurs hope for the best, professionals post and test. Amateurs hope for the best, but professionals post and test. This is all about staying in a place of curiosity, of cultivating curiosity and creating curiosity as you're creating content. So when an amateur posts a piece of content, they're just hoping and praying that it does well. And when it doesn't, there's a level of devastation, there's a level of taking it personally that goes back on them, especially again, when you're starting out. It's so vulnerable when you care so much and you're a mission-driven messenger and you're putting yourself out there and you have something that is really valuable to say to the world. And what's worse sometimes than having haters is having no one listen at all. Professionals look at this a little bit differently. Instead of thinking that the product has to be perfect, they look at this as practicing in public, and they understand that it's going to be iterative and they're not going to hit the mark every time. And when they do, they still don't take it personally. It's about a level of unattachment to the end result. So professionals see a video that does well, they're like, oh, that's great. I love that for me. I wonder what I did this time or what contributed to the success of this video. And then they put on this experimental hat, their research lab coat, if you will. And they start to look at some of these things to understand what data points, what values, what variables went into the success of that piece of content. And they like to pull levers to try to see if they can recreate it. And then they try again. The next video flops. And instead of being like, oh my God, this is the proof that I don't belong to have my voice out into the world, that no one wants to hear me, that I don't deserve a spot at the table, that I'm never going to be successful, this is never going to work for me, that I'll never make the money that I want or have the dreams, and I might as well just go crawl in a hole and forget about the whole thing, which a lot of amateurs do. They instead will go, oh, weird. Huh, I thought that was going to work. I wonder what I could do differently next time. Whether the results are positive or negative, they do not take them personally. They look at this as a chance to experiment. And all they're doing is mixing together potions in a cauldron, maybe if you're kind of witchy like that. Or they're pulling levers to see how they can engineer better content. And they think about themselves as engineers. The more you can remove the personal lens and look at this as practicing in public and experimentation, the better your content is going to be and the better your mental health is going to be. Again, we are all so much more than the content that we put out. And I think oftentimes the internet loves to say otherwise. We love to say that a reel is a reel is a reel. And in this 30 seconds, this is who the internet has decided that you are, has deemed this is who you are. And sometimes that is very favorable upon us. And sometimes those clips not so favorable upon us. And sometimes even if the clip is perfect in all senses of the word, as subjective as that may be, there's still going to be someone out there that's going to find a flaw with it. So we could spend all of our time trying to prove to the entire population of the planet, which is however many billions of people, that we deserve to have a voice, or we just have a voice. And we just continue to iterate on what makes us better. Time and time again, especially you see this with very successful women, there isn't someone that has been successful in history who hasn't had naysayers, that hasn't had someone against them, who hasn't had some sort of failure. It's not about the lack of failures that make them successful. It's about their ability to not internalize that as a reason why they shouldn't keep going, as to why that's proof that they don't deserve to be on a platform. That's proof that their message doesn't need to be heard by somebody else. And the truth is, you have a calling on your heart because your message matters, because someone needs to hear it. And the only difference between you as an amateur and a professional is that the professional is not allowing the negativity. It's not allowing the lack of views. It's not allowing when something goes wrong or a glitch on a social media profile, which happens, platforms go down, not allowing that to be a sign that they shouldn't keep going. They continue to experiment, they post and test, they release it out to the world, and they just keep trying different things. If you're able to take that approach of curiosity, life gets a million times better. And this is coming from someone who's a recovering perfectionist who really struggles with this concept. Even today, I had to sit here and say, okay, how can I approach curiosity about putting forth long form content in a way that I haven't before? In fact, I've stopped myself from making this type of content before because I didn't feel qualified. I didn't feel ready. I didn't know how to put it together. So instead of trying to make it perfect, we're going to get a data point on the board. We're going to post again and we're going to test again. And that's how this train's going to start rolling. And so if you're here from the beginning, I hope that you can see over time how this grows and how I continue to iterate and allow this to be an example for you as to how a professional approaches their content. The first thing that professionals have that amateurs don't is systems. And by the way, they may not stick to those systems. In fact, in point two, which is it's all about iteration, it's all about experimentation, it's all about cultivating from curiosity, coming to say, that worked. I wonder why that worked so well. That didn't work. I wonder why not. Of course, we celebrate the wins, but we're not attached to them. Just like we're not going to be attached to the negative outcomes or the expectations that didn't get met either. We're just going to say, cool, it's all information. Now let's keep moving forward. And through that information data collecting, you might change your systems. And that's perfectly normal. So we have systems for success, and then we have a curiosity mindset. The final piece that we're going to talk about, which differentiates. See, here normally I would go back and re-record this whole thing because I mispronounced a word. Not doing that this time. Posting and testing, y'all. We're posting and testing. So number 3, the reason that pros are more successful, or the third thing that they do that amateurs don't do, is they commit for the long haul. Amateurs are very in the wind. They're non-committal. It's just depending upon where the wind is blowing will determine what they think is important or how they're going to show up. It's very all or nothing. Either it's working or it's not. And if it's not, they're going to jump shit from the platform. I was a full-time content creator on Facebook during the time that Zuckerberg was being interviewed by Congress on Capitol Hill about how he was making money off of Facebook. There was a lot of conversation around this time a few years ago, which we all seem to have forgotten now in the wake of TikTok and all that's happening there on the legal fronts. But there was a lot of threats around Facebook being shut down. And because of that, creators left in droves from Facebook to go to other platforms. And that was part of what contributed to our success, my success with my co-founders on Facebook. The competition left because they weren't seeing the results. Or every now and again, Instagram will have a downturn views or a downturn market essentially for creators, especially during bigger campaigns like an election where the focus isn't on entertainment or education or information. It's focused specifically on that current event. And you're never going to be in control of that. Sometimes platforms go down. Sometimes your back end freezes. Sometimes videos won't upload, and that can be super frustrating. But are you committed to growing there and continuing to show up or not? And I can tell you what, the creators that I've seen over the last 5 years that I have grown side by side along with, or the ones that have surpassed me hand over fist, was because they showed up more than I did. And that doesn't mean that they posted 700 times a month. It just meant that they continued to show up video after video, piece of content after content, even when all signs pointed to they shouldn't. And all of my clients, even the ones that had been going at this for months or even years before becoming an Attentioneers client, they just kept going. And eventually something shifted. It's committing to this being part of the process. Is social media, is digital content a part of your business plan or not? And it's okay if it's not. Or if it's okay if it's just something that you want to play around with, then don't put the expectations on it to perform as if you would a professional. But if you know that this is a methodology that you want to use to drive new business, that you know is important for you to find new customers, that you know is important for you to build credibility and trust and to create more sales and generate more revenue, then you have to treat it like it's that. It's just as important as outreach. It's just as important as your email list. And so you make the time for it. I can tell you what, a lot of the content creators I know, they might have a number of videos in a row that don't perform well, and then one that does, and then a number that don't, and then one that does. And in fact, I had an Attentioneers bootcamp client come through. About one in every 20 of her videos does really well for her. The rest, under about 1,000 views. But you know what? She's making money every single month off the content that performs well. And that's all she needs, is to just keep going. And the more you do something, the more competent you become, which grows your confidence, which is also going to grow the views, which is going to grow the followers, which is going to grow the trust, which is going to grow the credibility and open up more opportunities, more revenue, more brand recognition, and more reputation. It's all here for you. But it does start with these three things. So if you do want the millions of views, if you want the followers, if you want to create that consistency in your content and being able to use that as a revenue stream, social media as a revenue stream, those are the three things I would start with to transfer you, to move you from being an amateur content creator to being in the professional realm. First, it's creating the systems. Then we're testing the systems and we're testing the content and we're not taking it personally and we're practicing in public and we understand that that's part of the game. And finally, you just don't quit. The creators that are successful right now started 3 years ago, started 5 years ago, and they just kept going. And if you need help on your journey and need support, please reach out to me because I'm here to help you keep going.